I took a night fire watch job in the forest because I needed money. The divorce didn't hit all at once. It came in pieces. Lawyer fees that kept stacking. Rent on a place that felt too big and too quiet. Groceries that suddenly mattered more than they used to. I kept telling myself it was temporary, that things would settle down, but they never really did. What I needed more than the money was space, distance, a reason to not be around people for a while without having to explain myself. I didn't want coworkers asking how I was doing. I didn't want friends checking in. I wanted something solitary, something simple, a job where nothing was expected of me except showing up and staying awake. That's why the fire watch listing caught my attention. Night fire watch. 1 week contract. No experience required. Good pay. Isolated location. I remember rereading that last part a few times. Isolated location. That sounded like exactly what I needed. All you had to do was sit in a tower, watch the forest, and report smoke if you saw any. No patrols, no hiking, no interaction. Just you, a radio, and a view. I told myself it would be like a reset, a quiet place to think, maybe even sleep a little better. The drive out there took longer than I expected. The road narrowed the farther I went, turning from pavement to gravel, then to something that barely deserved to be called a road at all. Trees closed in on both sides. My phone lost signal about 10 minutes before I reached the tower, the screen flashing between bars, and nothing before giving up completely. The tower sat on a small rise, surrounded by forest in every direction. Old wood, weathered grey, the stairs creaked even when the wind pushed against them. At the top was a single room, a narrow bed pushed against one wall, a desk bolted to the floor, a radio mounted beside it, a small window on each side, giving a full view of the trees. During the day, it felt calm, peaceful in a way I hadn't felt in months. The forest looked wide and open, tall trees, plenty of space between them, light filtering down through the branches. I could see far in every direction. Nothing felt wrong. I unpacked slowly, clothes folded into the corner, food lined up on the desk. I sat on the bed for a while, listening to the wind move through the trees. For the first time in a long time, my head felt quiet. An hour before sunset, my phone buzzed. One last notification before the signal disappeared completely. An email. Subject line. Night shift procedures. There was a single attachment, a PDF. The file name was just one word. Rules. That should have been my first warning. I opened it and started reading. Rule 1. Stay inside the tower after sunset. Do not leave for any reason before sunrise. That sounded reasonable. Night visibility was poor. Wildlife. Uneven ground. I nodded to myself and kept reading. Rule 2. The forest will look closer than it did during the day. This is normal. Do not measure the distance. That one made me pause. I reread it, then read it again. The wording felt oddly specific, but I told myself it was probably meant to stop people from panicking. Depth perception changes at night. Shadows play tricks. I moved on. Rule 3. If you see lights moving between the trees, do not signal back. They are not other rangers. I frowned at that. There were no other towers listed on the map they'd sent me. Still, maybe campers, hunters, someone wondering where they shouldn't be. I didn't like it, but I kept going. Rule 4. Drumming may begin after midnight. If it sounds slow and steady, remain calm. If it speeds up, prepare to hide. That was the first time I felt a real knot form in my stomach. Rule 5. The radio may turn on by itself. If you hear chanting, do not adjust the volume. If you hear your name, do not answer. I remember letting out a quiet laugh at that. Nervous, short, the kind of laugh you give when something makes you uncomfortable, but you don't want to admit it yet. Rule 6. If the chanting stops suddenly, hide immediately. The safest place is under the bed. I looked at the bed then. Thin mattress. Barely enough clearance underneath. The kind of place you'd hide if you were a kid and thought monsters were real. Rule 7. If something enters the tower, remain completely still. Do not look directly at its legs. I didn't like how calmly that was written. Rule 8. If you smell smoke and wet earth inside the tower, it is already too close. Rule 9. Do not leave the tower during the ritual. Leaving early will make you visible. Rule 10. If you survive until sunrise, leave immediately. Do not look back at the tower once you are on the ground. That was it. No explanation. No contact information. No company logo. Just the rules. I sat there for a long time after finishing, listening to the forest, watching the light slowly change outside. I thought about packing up and leaving, about driving back before dark, but then I thought about the money, about the empty apartment waiting for me, about how badly I wanted this to be just a strange document and nothing more. So I stayed. Sunset came faster than I expected. The light drained out of the forest like someone turning down a dimmer switch. Colors faded, details blurred. The trees became tall black shapes instead of individual trunks and branches. Shadows filled the spaces between them. That's when I noticed it. The forest looked closer, not like the trees had moved, more like the space between them had shrunk. The gaps felt tighter. The openness from earlier was gone. It felt like the forest was leaning in, just slightly, just enough for me to notice. I stepped closer to the window, instinctively trying to judge the distance. Then I stopped myself. Do not measure the distance. I stepped back and forced myself to sit down. The first few hours passed slowly, too slowly. Every sound felt louder at night. Every creak of the tower made me tense. I kept glancing at the windows, half expecting to see something staring back at me. But there was nothing. Just trees. Just darkness. Around midnight, the drumming started. At first, I thought it was my heartbeat, or maybe blood rushing in my ears. Stress does strange things, but this was steady, even. A rhythm that didn't change when I held my breath or shifted in my chair. It wasn't loud. It didn't echo. It felt like the sound was being absorbed by the forest instead of bouncing back, like it was meant to be heard only from where I was sitting. I stayed still, hands folded, breathing slow. Then I saw the lights, small points of orange between the trees. One at first, then another, then more. They weren't random. They were spaced out, forming a loose circle around the tower. Not perfect, but deliberate. I didn't wave. I didn't turn on my flashlight. I remembered Rule 3 and kept my hands where they were. The radio clicked on by itself. Static filled the room, low and constant. Then voices bled through, chanting, not clear words, just syllables repeated again and again, layered over each other. The drumming outside matched the rhythm perfectly. Then I heard my name. Spoken wrong. Too slow. like they were testing how it sounded, but clearly meant for me. Do not answer. My throat tightened. I stared at the radio and stayed silent. The drumming sped up. My chest felt tight. My palms were slick with sweat. The fires between the trees burned brighter. The chanting grew louder, faster, more urgent, like something was reaching a peak. Then everything stopped. No drums, no chanting, no wind. The silence pressed in on me, heavier than the noise had been. Hide immediately. I dropped to the floor and slid under the bed. The tower stairs creaked, one step at a time. Slow, heavy. The sound of weight being carefully placed. The door opened. Something walked inside. The floor bent under it. I saw its legs pass by the bed. They weren't human. The joints bent backward. The feet ended in hooves. Split. Black. Mud cracked along the edges, pressed deep into the wood like it weighed far more than it should have. Then the smell hit me. Smoke. Wet soil. Like burned leaves after rain. It stopped beside the bed. I could hear it breathing. Slow. Controlled. Not rushed. Like it knew exactly where I was and wasn't worried about me going anywhere. Outside, the chanting resumed. Louder now. Faster. The radio crackled, and a voice cut through the static. Do not come out. Something gripped the bed frame. Hard. The wood groaned under the pressure. Dust fell onto my face. I squeezed my eyes shut and stayed still. Then it let go. Footsteps moved away, down the stairs. Silence returned. I stayed under the bed until my legs cramped and my jaw ached from holding my breath. When I finally crawled out, the room was empty. The smell lingered. The sky outside had begun to lighten, just a little. Leave immediately. I grabbed my bag and rushed for the stairs. Halfway down, something grabbed my arm. Not rough, controlled. Like it knew exactly how much strength to use. I turned. It stood in the doorway below me, taller than the frame, skin dark and cracked like burned bark, legs thick, ending in hooves pressed deep into the wood. Two horns curved back from its skull, uneven, one chipped at the tip. Its face wasn't animal. It wasn't human. Its eyes reflected light that wasn't there. It pulled me closer. Claws slid down my forearm. 4 sharp lines burned into my skin, warm, stinging, not deep, just enough. A mark. I screamed and twisted free. I ran. Behind me, hooves hit wood, then dirt, then leaves. It followed. Not fast. It didn't need to be. The forest felt tighter now. Closer. Branches scraped my arms. Roots caught my feet. The sky brightened. Just as the sun broke over the hills, the footsteps stopped. I reached the road as daylight fully set in. My arm burned where it scratched me. I didn't look back. I don't know if the sunrise saved me, or if the mark means I'm not done with the forest yet. I didn't stay long enough to find out.